The city had turned into a blazing battlefield, where people struggled to withstand the ferocious power of a raging wildfire. Each dry gust of wind rushed in like invisible blades, sweeping through the valleys, carrying smoldering brush and fanning them into fierce scarlet flames that devoured entire mountainsides. The fire spread with frightening speed, as if driven by an unseen hand, surging over the slopes surrounding reservoirs, scouring valleys once as picturesque as paintings, leaving behind only scorched ridges and heavy smoke drifting slowly across the distant plains. Streets lay shrouded in haze, vehicles moved sluggishly through the limited visibility, parks were sealed off, and the city was harshly reminded that the beauty of forests could turn into peril in the blink of an eye. The once steadfast green shield of forests that protected Beijing now lay ripped apart by merciless heat. Young pines and parched oaks were consumed in vast swathes, reduced to blackened patches. Charred trunks stood bare, rooted like ghostly silhouettes upon scorched earth. Trails that once echoed with the footsteps of weekend travelers had collapsed into ruins, bridges seared, railings broken, and melted signs strewn across the hillsides. What remained were a few ancient stone steps and weathered terraces, silently bearing witness to the devastation, themselves marked by soot, standing as mournful relics of a forest lost. The flames did not stop there. They reached into vital infrastructure, places once thought secure. Sturdy power poles on the city's edge now bent and warped as though twisted by a giant's hand. Telecommunications boxes melted into grotesque shapes. Cables along the mountain roads lay silent in ashes. Smoke poured into tunnels, choking sensors, disrupting traffic, and spreading chaos. Nearby neighborhoods reeled under air quality alerts as soot infiltrated every corner. Reservoirs, the lifeblood of millions, faced the dire threat of contamination by falling ash and unstable soil. In the agricultural valleys, where generations had lived and worked, the destruction cut even deeper. Orchards that once hung heavy with fruit now stood as blackened, brittle branches. Radiant heat had scorched entire rows of crops. Irrigation pipes sagged and melted. Warehouses collapsed into cinders. Beekeepers stood stunned as hives crumbled. Swarms vanished into the choking smoke. Terraced fields and lush herb gardens were blanketed in gray ash, retaining walls broken and crumbling. And even after the flames had passed, prolonged closures, stalled harvests and deliveries, pushing already struggling farmers further into hardship. Life itself seemed suspended, and with it, culture and tourism fell silent. Scenic gates were locked, ancient temples deserted, their courtyards swept in haste to ward off encroaching ash. Museums near the disaster zones shuttered their doors to protect priceless relics, the very memories of generations. Outdoor events were canceled, school excursions abandoned, tea houses and inns that once buzzed with laughter and chatter now sat empty, chairs vacant, lights extinguished. A vital source of livelihood was severed, leaving a mournful stillness to settle over the mountains. Nature, too, bore grievous wounds. Ground-nesting birds lost their shelters, amphibians lay exposed, vulnerable to predators. Bare slopes stood ready to collapse under the first rains, sending torrents of red earth and sediment into reservoirs below. Ecologists warned that if wildfires repeated with such force, the forests might never recover. Towering trees could be replaced by flammable thickets, perpetuating a vicious cycle of more frequent, more violent blazes. On the front lines, thousands of men and women fought to hold the line. Firefighting units fanned out across the hillsides, establishing makeshift command posts. Satellites, drones, and forest watch patrols tracked the shifting smoke and spreading flames. Bulldozers carved fire breaks. Crews dug barriers into rugged ravines. Helicopters circled, releasing torrents of water onto inaccessible hotspots.
着火了，车烧起来了。
Convoys of fire engines and supply trucks crept up narrow, winding roads, carrying both anxiety and fragile hope. Villages and mountain resorts were evacuated, families abandoning homes as they descended quietly, lit only by the flashing red glow of emergency lights. It was the stark proof of an unforgiving reality. The threat of wildfire in Beijing is ever present, lurking like a shadow. The city lies pressed against dense forests, easily ignited under the whip of strong winds. Though the flames here may not be the largest in the nation, the damage spreads wide, touching every aspect of life. Scorched trails, crippled utilities, altered habitats, and economic scars that will linger far longer than smoke. And so it stands as a warning that cannot be ignored. Even at the gates of one of the world's great capitals, nature retains the power to reveal its fury and redraw the map overnight. It reminds humanity that no matter how grand our achievements, they remain fragile before the wrath of the earth. The city now stands not only before ashes and smoke, but before the very question of its future. For what has happened is not merely an unexpected disaster, but a stark reminder of the fragile bond between humankind and nature. The forest, once the green lungs, once the shield guarding the city from dust and storms, now lies in ruins, revealing the truth that when that shield collapses, humanity is left with no refuge. Wildfire knows no boundaries. It cannot tell where the park ends, where the ancient grove begins, where the farmer's orchard lies, or where a family's peaceful home stands. When the flames rise, all become ash, all share the same fate. And when smoke drifts into the city, when the reservoirs are threatened, we realize that what is lost is not only trees, not only landscapes, but the very survival of human life. And so, this is not only a tragedy to remember, but a call for change. A call to see the forest through different eyes, not merely as a place of beauty to admire, but as a place where we entrust our future. To understand that every leaf, every root, every blade of grass is a vital link holding together the delicate balance of this planet. We need forests to be reborn, rivers to run clear again, clean air to breathe, fertile soil to plant upon, and to achieve this, no one can stand apart. From the farmers in the valleys to the residents of the city, from the students who have never set foot in the mountains to the leaders shaping decisions, each bears a share of responsibility. Protecting the forest is not only the duty of rangers, not only the burden of firefighters who risk their lives amid the flames, it is the responsibility of us all woven into the small choices of our daily lives. It is found when we cherish each drop of water, each stretch of green, when we understand that nature is not merely the backdrop of life, but the very condition for life itself to endure. Tonight, the city still lies under a dim veil of smoke. The scars upon the forest will remain etched for many years to come. Yet within these ashes, if we choose to listen, lies a message. That we must learn humility before nature, learn to love and protect it before it is too late. Remember, it takes only one gust of wind, one spark, one stormy night, and the map can be redrawn. And only through unity, awareness, and compassion can we keep the forests alive again so that the city will no longer awaken to fire and smoke, so that humanity may continue to breathe in peace, and so that future generations may still have a home upon this earth. For when the forest revives, life itself revives. And when humanity bows in reverence to nature, nature will once again open its arms, shelter us, and nourish us, as it did in the beginning. The smoke will eventually fade, and the forest will one day be reborn, but the scars left by nature's fury will forever remind us to cherish, protect, and love this planet before it is too late. And if you believe that stories like this deserve to be shared, so that more people may awaken and act together, then please support us by hitting subscribe. Every subscription, every share is a voice, a light of hope on the journey to safeguard both nature and humanity. Join us in spreading this message so that no one will ever again have to witness a city consumed by fire and smoke.